Okay, so now we're going to talk about comparing and ordering rational numbers. That includes fractions, decimals, and percents. And we're also talking about positive and negative rational numbers. Okay, well, when you are comparing or ordering rational numbers, it might be a good idea to think about the numbers on a number line. And you need to remember that on a number line, left to right means smallest all the way up to the greatest. So it's the same principle even with decimals, fractions, or percents. So what I would do if I were asked to put these in order from least to greatest, I would first place them on a number line. So 0.25, I'm just estimating, would be close to the 0, but still in between the 0 and the positive 1. Now, negative 1.3, I'm estimating would be in between negative 1 and negative 2, but still closer to the negative 1 side. 3/4, now that's between 0 and 1, but that fraction I'm estimating to be closer to 1 whole than 0. And negative 50%, well, that is right in between 0 and negative 1 as half of a negative whole. So if I put these in order from least to greatest, you would see that negative 1.3 is the smallest, going all the way up to the largest rational number that we have, which is 3/4. The same principle applies if you are given a word problem. So let's look at this word problem. It says that there's 3 students who all have conducted the same survey, and the survey is about the number of hours that people sleep at night. They asked how many people sleep 8 hours a night, and their results are shown below. The question is, which student's survey had the most amount of people that slept 8 hours a night? So we have Susan, who reported 18 out of 48. So her reports are like a fraction form. 18 of the 48, or 18 over 48 people said yes. Kenny, he gave his report saying that 36% of the people said yes to 8 hours of sleep, while James, his is as a decimal form, 0.365% say yes, they get 8 hours of sleep. So in order to figure out which survey had the most amount of people that get 8 hours of sleep a night, you want to try to put all 3 forms in the same form, whether it be fraction, decimal, or percent. It might help if they're all the same. Usually, people have an easier time reading percents. So I'm going to leave Kenny's. Kenny was 36%. And I'm going to convert Susan's fraction and James' decimal to a percent and then compare. So right now we know that Kenny says 36%. I think I'm going to go to James next to change his decimal to a percent. We've talked about this earlier. Changing a decimal to a percent is pretty simple. There's a couple of methods, but the quickest and the easiest is just to move the decimal point back 2 places. And by doing that, we now have 36.5%. Or if you want to round that, that's about 37%. Either way, his percentage is greater than Kenny's. So far it looks like James has the larger population of people who sleep 8 hours a night. But let's take a look at Susan's report. Her report said that 18 of the 48 people said yes to 8 hours. So as a fraction, 18 said yes out of all the 48 people that she surveyed to 8 hours of sleep. We talked about how to change a fraction to a decimal, but before I start dividing the numerator by denominator, I'm going to reduce or simplify my fraction. A common number that goes into both of these would be 6. So if I did 18 divided by 6, my new numerator is now a 3. And 48 divided by 6 is 8. So 18 over 48, we've just reduced to 3/8. The reason why I reduced it, because when I divide the numerator by the denominator, my numbers are much smaller. So you might also find it helpful to reduce before you start dividing. My decimal point is behind the 3, so it will go straight up. And I'll add the 0 and begin dividing. 8 goes into 30 about 3 times. Add the 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 60 about 7 times. So I'm running out of room, so I'll just bring it over here with a 4. And I would add a 0 and bring it down. And 8 goes into 40 about 5 times evenly. So I'm left with the decimal 0.375. And we just talked about how to change decimals to percents. You just move the decimal point back 2 places. So really what you have is 37.5%, or if you round it, 38%. Either one is greater than Kenny or James. So it looks like Susan's report had the largest amount of people who gets 8 hours of sleep.